Welcome everyone to the history of Signa, formerly known as Terra, a Ronin Yeti Designs time-lapse montage of the different planets within the upcoming video game series. The first face of Signa is relatively the same as all the other planets. It's during its inception birth, where its natural formation is a lot of valleys full of hills, just like rolling hills, giant to small lakes around, and sporadic forests, like yellow fluorescent forests, just normal within different patches around the Earth. And as you can see here in a minute, there are going to be trails going from each forest, and those are actually caused by the alpha species pre-evolved versions called the Tarkans. And they're basically tree, plant-like species that kind of live together, known as gatherings, and they just kind of live amongst the planet and go from forest to forest to stay shaded and get nutrients and to live and whatnot. Again, this planet is relatively simple. As you can see here, there are some K slivers being created, and the only really unique part of this planet is all the different K shards, slivers, crystals, etc. spread out through the surface of the planet, which eventually will be used within the second and third phase to kind of create technology. Again, there's not much to say about the Terracans. They started out as a very peaceful, a very simple race. But as they evolved, they became obsessed with life. Now, Tara/Signa is within the life soul system within the Zero perspective. With that being said, once the alpha species evolves, they become obsessed with kind of what their sun is about. And right now we're going into phase 2, where a lot of the hills on the top at least are being destroyed, the forests are being destroyed, the water is being turned into basically square-like water reservoirs, which will be used later. And basically this type of technology is an atom-infusing technology where they take the atoms of the machinery they create and basically meld them with the atoms of their environment around them, which creates a very perfect and almost immortal-like type of environment. As you can see for the very top, though, we're getting to the second phase of what's called the total preservation movement. That's where the species, the Terragans, eventually known as the Signites, when the planet becomes Signa, they're obsessed with life. They do not like the fact that they're mortal anymore, so they keep trying to come up with ways to kind of preserve themselves and their environment. They try to, like I said, use their technology to create a perfected environment, and eventually they actually start cloning themselves because they find out that the pollens from each other that they need to have children, it's very, very rare to find the right mate. So eventually Kindle, which his name and title becomes Insigniacious Kindle, he creates right here a giant city around a giant cloudbuster mausoleum, which actually sucks up all the souls of all the dead Tarkans and is able to be recycled into new cloned bodies. There's a lot more going on with this planet than I can really show, but suffice to say, the second phase is just trying to show the transition from normal to not so normal, at least for Tarkans. As you can see there were actually some lightning rods to try to get energy, but moving on to the third phase, basically with the second phase of the total preservation movement, which has to do with that top part, which you can see right there going down, had to do with encasing the entire planet in their same type of geomechanical technology. It went from, like I said, being a perfected technology to almost kind of destroying their planet. They wanted to preserve their planet so much, they basically destroyed it. The only place on their planet that they kept the same, or relatively same, was the preservation zone in the southern pole, which you'll see here in a minute, which is a big dome-like structure encases it, so nothing externally can change it. But as you can see here, for the rest of the planet, it's just becoming kind of uniform, authoritarian type of mechanical planet itself, with giant hard drive looking, giant tower-like residential columns. You got the giant cloudbuster mausoleum up there still. You got all the water reservoirs turning into squares, and it's just becoming almost a desolate planet. And without giving too much away, the planet does become more desolate than one might imagine. And the only survivors are actually the survivors are actually encased within the southern preservation zone. Again, too much to really explain here, but just know that the story of Signa is basically the story of the Zero perspective. Without Signa, there would be really no history of the Zero perspective, at least the way we know it. But tune in next time for another History of with Ronin Yeti.